spending to blunt an economic downturn. Meanwhile, in Washington, a Congress that goes back to work to do nothing. On top of what we already owe, there's another $20 to $50 trillion the government will need to fulfill its promises on Social Security and Medicare as the baby boomers retire.
I don't think it's just to the next generation for us to pass on massive debts that we've amassed.
And that's not all. At the end of the year, automatic spending cuts as part of the fiscal cliff could send the U.S. tumbling back into a recession. A recession that's preventable if our government would act. It begs the question, are we Rome before the fall?
Our problems can be solved. Our challenges can be met.
Voters will decide in November who they trust to fix what ails America, but let's put the election cycle aside for a minute. As U.S. Comptroller General David Walker spent a decade overseeing how the federal government spends your tax dollars. Today, he's the CEO of the Comeback America Initiative. David, in 2007, you wrote a piece for the Financial Times warning America that she risks the fate of Rome. It's a piece as widely quoted as it is terrifying. 5 years later, the U.S. is withdrawing out of 2 expensive wars. Is that enough to fix the problems you laid out?
No, Christine, I said 3 things. One, that we have 3 similarities to Rome. Decline in values, decline in political civility, overconfident and overextended military around the world, and fiscal irresponsibility. The values and the political problem is worse. We're drawing out of the Middle East. We're out of Iraq. We're going to be coming out of Afghanistan. That's better, but we're still overconfident and overextended. And our fiscal situation
Saturday,
is
September
much
15th,
worse.
2012.
Our University of California at Irvine economics professor Peter Navarro is the director of this new documentary film called Death by China. Peter, is America doing to itself what I guess every enemy of a country would dream it could do?
Christine, I don't see this as Rome before the fall, but we do have a lot of Neros fiddling. What I see is more of a scenario right after the Wall Street crash in 1929. If you look at what was happening around the globe then, we basically had a collapse of the international monetary system as they abandoned the gold standard. Now we have Europe in chaos and the euro about to implode. We have a budding trade war around the globe. And basically we have a very rapid militarization of a totalitarian power. And of course, in Europe, Germany now is basically the dominant force once again. It's a very unstable equilibrium for our economy.
So what do we do, Peter Navarro? What do we do right now to make sure we stay dominant in this new global economy?
The central fact of our economic life, Christine, is that prior to 2001, we grew at a rate of 3.5% GDP. Since that time, we've grown at a rate of 1.6%. Loss of 2 percentage GDP points basically is 2 million jobs a year not created, 20 million over the period. That's what we need right now to put people back to work. And if you look at the drag on GDP over that period of time, it's basically 2 things related. The trade deficit, which costs us much of that, and the loss of domestic investment offshore. If we basically balance our trade and we get back to manufacturing things here, get 25% of our workforce working in manufacturing like Germany does, we will be a great power again.
You know, David Walker, I don't hear anybody talking about that on the campaign trail. I hear them talking about, you know, restoring manufacturing, but the intricacies of how to do that are something that you don't hear, because I think you have 4-year election cycles for the president. You have every 2 years you got people running for something around here. We don't have a long-term strategy, David.
Well, the fact is, Christine, Monday will be the 225th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. And while we've been in business that long, we still don't have a strategic plan, we don't have a budget, and we don't have performance metrics, outcome-based metrics to understand how we're doing, are we getting better or worse, and how we compare to others. That's fundamental. It's Management 101. And, you know, we're living on our past reputation. We need to start taking steps to help create a better future, and we need to hear more from these candidates about substance and solutions on all these issues we're talking about. We're hearing too much sloganeering and mudslinging.
Well, it's bumper sticker politics, you know, at a time when we have really crushing issues. I mean, just ahead of us, David Walker, the fiscal cliff. And this fiscal cliff is something that will mean people will lose their jobs. Middle-class people will get smacked by the AMT. People will see smaller paychecks and higher tax bills. and you will see a recession. Factories will close. That is a certainty if Congress doesn't do its job. I mean, that's congressional malpractice.
Look, we have a political system today that's dominated by special interest and career politicians who may or may not have had a real job in their life, but once they get elected, they don't. And their primary concern is keeping their job rather than doing their job.
All right, don't move, because we're going to talk with both of you about the one thing that we could do right now to make sure we don't go over that cliff and to make sure that this is America's century again. Coming up, if the United States is Rome before the fall, then which nation stands to be the next Roman Empire?
You can't talk about